Herkese merhaba, hoş geldiniz oturumumuza. Günümüzün en çok başımıza artan konularından biri phishing atakları biliyorsunuz ve bu ataklarla, oltalama saldırılarıyla ve türevleriyle ilgili sözü sevgili Alex'e bırakıyorum sunum için.
Thank you very much. So we're going to switch from Turkish language. So I apologize. I do have an English. I speak English, but I have a very strong French accent. So we'll try to manage. We'll try to manage the presentation. Thank you very much for your invitation. So let's talk about Cofense and what Cofense is doing. And I'm going to share to you some best practices and our vision on how to help organizations to stop a phishing attack in progress. And this is the aim of Cofense. Cofense was known as PhishMe. We just rebranded a couple of months ago. It's a little bit confusing on the market because who's Cofense? But it's just a rebrand from an acquisition from our private investors. So let me just take the. So let's start with the basics, and I think here we are talking about a very simple topics. As you know, most of the large organizations, as you are, even medium-sized organizations, are focusing on complex technology that is necessary, like, for example, the SIM technology, the incidents and response technology, the threat intelligence technology. These are quite costly to put in place, to tune, to configure, to collect correctly the information, and to get the right alerts. So what we do at Cofense is really focusing on only one simple topic that is pretty well known since many years, is the phishing. And as you know, for the hackers, one easy way to get into your IT environment, then you have many type and complex attacks, is to use the first open gate, which is the email. Is the fastest way. Here, two numbers that we need to keep in mind. The first one is the high growth of increase of phishing attack in 2017 and still 2018. And the second number also that most of the vendors are communicating is the number of days for you to discover that you have a malicious activity inside your environment. So in terms of pure risk management, due to the increase of the phishing attack, this type of threats, and the number of days, we need to just try to shorten the recognition of the malicious activity. So here is just rapidly an overview of what we have seen in terms of latest trends in terms of phishing attacks. First, in 2017, beginning 2018, most of the phishing attacks, they are playing the susceptibility of the users, and they are abusing legitimate software. Don't think that the attackers today are trying to use complex exploits to get data from or to put in place some malware into your malicious environment. They are just abusing the employee and the users by using legitimate brands. Also, the second trend that we are seeing is that most of the time also they react fast just after a vulnerability communication. So this is, and they are not really using the exploit, they are using the communication to push the user to fail, and to open a document or to click into a link. And the last one, for sure, we can see some special new techniques, and I'll show you a couple of examples, that bypass anyway your security perimeter devices. So the main abuse platform, as everybody knows here, is the Microsoft. So the micro into Microsoft. This is the easiest way to infect your IT environment. So we know the attack with Excel, and that's an example with the attached document. Yeah, as I said, using the exploit, it's complicated. It's too costly for a company, for an attacker, to try to really use a vulnerability. So what they do, they use the communication, they send a phishing attack, they are informing the user that they, for example, that they have to change their password based on the Microsoft Office 365, for example, and that then they are communicating confidential information. This is a type of example. And the two most common techniques also that bypass any content filtering technology today is the OLE and DDE techniques, where you have any way to have someone, a human, how do you want to say, effect on the OLE in order to perform the attack. We've seen also some change. I was talking about Excel, but it's true that the attachment file looks like the Excel. So the user with the .pub, for example, with publisher, they get trapped by this type of phishing threats, and they tend to open it. So again, they play on the susceptibility. Also, right now, what passed by still a lot of attacks is the sandbox. You have new techniques that pass by most of the inbox. Password encrypted document still is not stopped at the gateway. Text into an image, it's very difficult so the context of an email, it's very difficult to stop. This is the CEO fraud, for example. It's very difficult to stop if the user is not trained to identify and to recognize that potentially it's a malicious email. So text into an image bypass your security perimeter. OLE package, that as I told you, with this human interaction, this is a common techniques. And short URL, where most of the employee doesn't look at what is behind, is not their job anyway, and they tend to cling. That's an example of techniques, zero-front techniques, where the security perimeter solution is not seeing what the user is looking at. So in the perimeter solution, they are not looking at any threats. So the sandbox is passing the email, and then the user is definitively looking at the different type of context and information. And then again, the phishing has a negative impact when it comes to the user mailbox. Also, that's a basic. Now it's well written. Usually it's short email. It focuses on the susceptibility. You have link, you have data entry techniques, you have attachment techniques. And this is also still something that we are seeing in 2018 a lot. It's targeting also every cloud environment. Your credential is definitively very important to protect, back to the authentication and strong authentication mechanism sometime to have in place. But all the cloud, Dropbox, DHL delivery type of emails is definitively a target to play on the susceptibility of the user. And also, this is a bit more sophisticated because this is like a data entry type of phishing attacks. In this example, this is where we confuse the employee and asking them to reply to his question when he had to reset his password. And most of the employee, unfortunately, they reply, and then with this type of attack, they can prepare a second type of target, more focused to maybe certain departments. Ransomware. So ransomware is still a very hot topic, and this is the real pain. This is the real pain, and this is the real cost for you. So this is based on our Phishing Defense Center. There's some statistic of what we have seen in terms of ransomware. So it's mainly Loki and Cerber for 2017, but it's quite similar also beginning of 2019. This is still a very, very hot topics, and a lot of countries are definitively a target for ransomware. Because it's a way to generate a lot of money for the attackers, and they are more or more organized. I just wanted to show you this type of ransomware because I find it so well organized, where you can have a chat, you can decide what you want to pay, what type of information you want to get back. So it's amazing how they are delivering services to get as fast as possible money from your company or from directly the user. This one, I think probably most of the people have received this one. Me, I received this one personally this summer, when they show you in the email that they have your password, they show you your personal password, and at the same time they tell you that they have activated your camera, your video, and that they have a lot of screenshots of you watching some websites, and if you don't pay, then they will publish everything on social media. This is a typical type of threats. Behind that, there is no specific malware, but it's disturbing for company. So this is, again, an example where we play a lot on the susceptibility of the user, where the user has to recognize such a type of threats. And at the end of the day, anyway, this is what I told you, credential, this is the main target, getting the login and password from at least 1 or 2 employees to be able to launch and to then exploit and launch different types of future attacks. So what are we seeing today at Cofense and in our PDC, in our Phishing Defense Center, is most of the company, they do have an abuse mailbox today in place. Or the IT help desk is receiving a lot of email or complaint from the employee when they are spam. Roughly 15%, overall 15% of what your employee is reporting is considered as malicious, which is a pretty high number. So, and we are talking about email that is already into the mailbox of the user. So this is where Cofense has decided to focus compared to a couple of years ago, and at Shield when we were here last year and 2 years ago, where we were talking about the awareness market at PhishMe. This is where we realize that the real problem is not the awareness, is not to reduce the susceptibility of the user. The real problem for you is to be able to identify on time that something is happening in the mailbox of your users. So awareness is one component, but is not enough. So the real fish, doesn't matter if it's ransomware, is the real problem for you. And doesn't matter, this is a typical slide that we are showing since 3 years, but it is so true. Doesn't matter what you have on your perimeter solution. You can have a secure mail gateway. You can have content filtering techniques. You can have artificial intelligence, sandboxing, SIM technology. Even with SIM technology, you will never be able to understand the context and the content of an email with a SIM technology. SIM technology collects logs from your security perimeter devices. You can enrich logs with, in certain fields, with information from the exchange or from the mail gateway, but will never enrich with the content and the context of what an email is saying. So SIM technology works not really well for phishing detection. So doesn't matter what you are working on today and what you have, everybody agree here that you are still receiving phishing attacks. So it's good, it's really good. So what's the best practices here? The best practices, first of all, we need definitively to improve the user to detect or to identify something suspicious. And by detecting something suspicious, they should not click. Unfortunately, some of them, they will detect that it's suspicious, they will continue to click. And some of them, you will train them, even you will bring a team into a classroom, but they will continue to click. Doesn't matter. What matters, and this is where we want to go, and this is where we want company to realize, we want the employee to report. We believe that reducing the susceptibility is good, but building the resiliency, improving the reporting capability, it's much more powerful. But it's not enough. So training is good, reporting is good, but how are you dealing today with your abused mailbox? When you are receiving, during a phishing attacks or during a week, hundreds of emails, do you have today in your security team, or do you really have the time to look at all the content? So you need to have a platform to anticipate potential crises. So a platform that is doing the analytics on what you are receiving, and then a platform that will be able to raise the alerts, to set the priority for you, and to respond. And this is the strategy of Cofense. It's called collaborative defense. We have today 6 components, 6 products. So the PhishMe name, X-name of company now is the name of the product, which is a simulation, pretty well known because we created the market of the phishing simulation. So this is where we build the awareness. We still have the learning management system and the computer-based training, and we are, by the way, delivering for free now the computer-based training. We consider that the learning management system and the computer-based training are working well, but are not that efficient compared to phishing simulation. Phishing simulation, you can teach your employee on the spot. When you are sending a phishing simulation on the spot, when he's clicking, when he's opening the document, you are just telling him, like a child when he's crossing the street, on the spot you're telling, no, this is dangerous what you're doing. And this is the best way to teach your employee. This is why this is still very important. The core, not core product, because it's not a very complex product, but the core of our overall strategy is the reporting capability. This should be in center of your anti-phishing overall strategy. Building the resiliency, making sure that you have an efficient reporting process in place, and then have different sets of technology called triage, vision, and intelligence that are able to help you to analyze, to do the triage, so to clean all the spam and the noise reduction, and to clean your environment when a real attack is happening. And that's the kill chain methodology. You have on the left side, you have all the baseline that you have to set, all the phishing simulation that you have to launch. You have to be able to measure the progress on the susceptibility ratio. You have to measure the progress on the reporting capability. You have to compare your company compared to what is happening in your country or compared to other company working in your same environment. And then you have to deploy these analytics capabilities, because at the end of the user, they will start reporting, and potentially they will start reporting real email. And you need to have a team that is really replying back to the user. That was the phishing activity, good, you report it. That's not, thank you very much, and you send back the email. Because this is the real scenario. That's an example on our dashboard where a company has been hit. So you can see at 7 o'clock, you start seeing employee starting reporting. And then 17 minutes after, in red, you can see the first employee that click on the link, that infects your IT environment. And in between, your SOC team or your incident response team or your IT help desk team, depending how you are organized, has received 200 alerts already. And this is where Cofense, with triage and vision, has a very compelling story, can provide a solution that will do this analytics and will give you the capability to stop and clean the attacks before the first one click on the document or click on the link.
Alex, as a conclusion, so what do you want to add to your speech?
So phishing attacks is definitively a hot topic, as you know, and I'm covering a pretty large region with different level of maturity. I'm covering all Middle East, Africa, Turkey, Greece, and so it's an overall threat. And this morning the last example I had is just this morning in Saudi Arabia. I just received a massive attack and phishing attack in some government organization. And everybody is spending a massive amount of money at the perimeter. And I think the right message as a conclusion would be try to have the right tools, because at the end of the day, it's a product, to help you as a security expert to get visibility on time on what is happening already into your mailbox, to be able to anticipate when the day will arrive, when potentially you will receive a real difficult phishing threat or ransomware or malware, you will be ready. So I think the message is having the ability to anticipate threats by having a platform ready to shut down, to do the who else, to do the discovery, to do the quarantine, and to do the shutdown, the cleaning of all the mailbox of your user environment.
Thank you for helping us to understand the phishing attacks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.